Ambassador Zethkari's four eyes blinked in rapid succession as she stared at the holographic display floating before the Stellar Senate's emergency assembly. The numbers couldn't be right. They simply couldn't be. 17 star systems, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the concerned murmuring of the assembled delegates. In just 50 years, they've claimed 17 star systems. Senator Voxelana of the Andromedian Collective leaned forward, her crystalline features catching the chamber's amber lighting. Impossible. The humans were exiled to the Outer Rim with nothing but basic colony ships, no advanced technology, no weapons, no allies. The hologram rotated slowly, showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy's outer spiral arm. What had once been empty space marked only by the notation, Human Exile Zone, Quarantined, now pulsed with the distinctive blue markers of inhabited systems. But these weren't the scattered, struggling outposts the Senate had expected to find. These were thriving worlds. The reconnaissance probe data is verified, announced General Krextar, his massive insectoid frame clicking as he gestured toward the display. Each system shows signs of advanced infrastructure, space stations, orbital shipyards, mining operations that dwarf our own outer colonies. 50 years ago, the decision had seemed justified, even merciful. Humanity had been the newest species to achieve faster-than-light travel, stumbling into galactic society with their crude fusion drives and primitive computers. They'd been granted a probationary membership in the Stellar Senate, a chance to prove themselves worthy of joining the galactic community. Instead, they'd proven themselves to be everything the established powers feared. Within a decade, human merchants had revolutionized interstellar trade with their aggressive negotiation tactics and innovative logistics. Human scientists had begun publishing research that challenged theories held sacred for millennia. Human diplomats had started forming alliances with minor species that the major powers had long ignored. Most disturbing of all, humans had begun asking uncomfortable questions about why certain species held permanent seats on the Senate, while others did not, why some worlds received priority aid while others were left to struggle, why the galaxy's resources flowed inevitably toward the core systems, while the rim worlds remained impoverished. The final straw had come when humanity proposed a complete restructuring of the Senate's governing charter. For the stability of galactic civilization, the Senate had declared, humanity is hereby expelled from the Stellar Senate and exiled beyond the neutral zone. Any attempt to return to Senate space will be considered an act of war. The humans had not protested. They had not pleaded. They had simply gathered their ships, loaded their people, and disappeared into the vast emptiness of the Outer Rim. And then, for 50 years, silence. How did they do it? Senator Voxelana asked, her voice tight with disbelief. We monitored them for the first decade. They barely had enough supplies to establish basic colonies on 3 worlds. Ambassador Zethkari manipulated the holographic controls, zooming in on one of the human systems. The detail was staggering. Massive orbital platforms, asteroid mining fleets, what appeared to be entire cities floating in space. The probe managed to intercept some of their communications before being detected, she said. They're calling themselves the Terran Commonwealth now. And according to their broadcasts, she paused, her throat sacs fluctuating nervously. They're recruiting. Recruiting who? General Krextar demanded. Everyone we cast aside, Zethkari replied quietly. The species we deemed too primitive for Senate membership. The worlds we labeled economically unviable. The colonies we abandoned when their resources were exhausted. They've all joined the humans. The chamber fell silent. For centuries, the Stellar Senate had maintained order through a careful hierarchy. The oldest, most advanced species held the seats of power, while newer civilizations earned their place through careful compliance with established norms. Those who couldn't adapt or wouldn't were simply left behind. It had been a stable system, an efficient system, and now the humans had weaponized their rejection of it. Sir, a junior officer interrupted, approaching General Krextar with a datapad. Priority communication from the border. Krextar scanned the message, his compound eyes widening. They're moving, he announced to the chamber. Long-range sensors detect a massive fleet approaching the neutral zone. The hologram shifted, displaying the approaching formation. Even the Senate's most experienced military minds had never seen anything like it. The fleet was enormous, not just in terms of numbers, but in its sheer diversity. Ships of dozens of different designs flew in perfect formation, representing technologies and aesthetics from across the galaxy's forgotten corners. At the center of the formation, unmistakably human in design but built on a scale that dwarfed anything in the Senate's arsenal, was a massive vessel bristling with both familiar and utterly alien weapon systems. "Open a channel," ordered Speaker Thaldarin from the Senate's central podium. The transmission crackled to life, revealing a figure that sent a collective shiver through the assembled delegates. The human was tall, as they all were, but carried himself with an authority that seemed to fill the chamber despite being light years away. Behind him stood representatives of species the Senate had long forgotten: the sturdy Krillian miners, the ingenious Veltar engineers, the fierce Korthak warriors. "Greetings, Stellar Senate," the human said, his voice calm and measured. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Commonwealth Navy. We're here to discuss the terms of our return." Speaker Thaldarin's crest flared indignantly. "You were exiled." The Senate's decision was final. Admiral Chen smiled, a distinctly human expression that the aliens had learned to fear. "The Senate's decision was indeed final. You cast us out, abandoned us, left us to die in the void, and in doing so, you created something far more dangerous than the democracy you feared." She gestured to the beings standing beside her. "You created an empire built on the simple principle that every species, every world, every voice matters. We learned from your mistakes, Senators. We learned that true strength doesn't come from hoarding power. It comes from sharing it." The transmission shifted, showing images of the Commonwealth's worlds, humans working alongside dozens of species, building cities that incorporated architectural styles from across the galaxy, children of different species playing together in parks beneath alien suns. "We're not here to conquer," Admiral Chen continued. "We're here to offer membership in the Commonwealth to any species that desires it, starting with every world in Senate space that's ever been told they're not good enough, not advanced enough, not civilized enough to have a voice." As if on cue, communication requests began flooding into the Senate's networks. Dozens, then hundreds of worlds, many of them Senate members, requesting information about the Commonwealth. Ambassador Zethkari looked around the chamber at the panicked faces of her colleagues and realized the truth that the humans had known from the beginning. They hadn't just survived their exile. They had turned it into the galaxy's greatest strength. The age of the Stellar Senate was ending. The age of the Commonwealth had begun.